We are here at the Simon Preston Gallery with Mr. Simon Preston over here, and I'm just excited about what I see on the wall, and I felt I had to say something. So with this first piece by Jean Gerard, it's pretty interesting because it comes out off the wall, but maybe Simon, you could tell me a bit more about this artist. And
Jean Gerard is an Irish artist. He's based in Vienna, and he works with real-time simulations. So although what you're looking at might look like a sort of video image, a film image, it's not at all. There's no recorded information. It's actually running off an algorithm. So it's a piece of pure code. So in fact, the small patch of the Danube River, which he's laid on this small petroleum patch, unfolds over the course of 365 days. So the sun will rise and set as it does in that location.
Yeah, that's fascinating to me because it's just all code. I think that's fascinating. But can we also take a look, please, at on this side of the wall with, I believe this is a Josh Tonsfeld work?
We have two works here by Josh Tonsfeld. They're both based around the sort of dismantling of a flat screen television. And in this instance, although it's quite hard at first to sort of just figure out what's going on, Josh has actually removed one of the thin prism films, which he's used in another work. And that has actually given you kind of access to the back of the television, so you're seeing the light source, and there's some small sculptural elements in there, but the television is still playing as it would, so you're also seeing a short video clip being played on top.
Well, his work is all about color, and it's all about color in space. It's not about applying color to a canvas or applying color to surface, but about launching color in space. So everything that you see around here, some of the colors are on the surface, but most of them are not. And when you go up close, the colors that you see are not necessarily there. So it's all about perception, about your eye tricking you sometimes. It's all about moving too. As you move, color appear and disappear, and this is what makes it interesting, I think.
Hello, we're at Art Basel, and we're in the booth of OMR, the esteemed Mexico City Gallery. And we have the director, Kirsten Erdmann, with us, and we are going to look at the sublime painting over here by Jan Gerstberger. So, Kirsten, could you tell us a little bit about the symbolism and what's happening in this painting?
Yes, of course. Actually, it's the very first time we are presenting such a big mural by a young artist from France, based in Mexico City. And what we basically can see here is a very imagination of the Day of the Dead in Mexico. So actually, Mexico's tradition of the Day of the Dead is very special. So people are going to the cemeteries and they are having food and drinks together with their families. This is a lake, so you can see the lake on this mural. You can see this part of the cemetery, and exactly. And you can also see some of different characters from children books. So he got inspired by children books from the 60s or 70s. So this little bird is from there. So it is like a piece you can explore, and you can see so many different layers. And it's also interesting because it goes back to the muralism of Mexico. This piece very happily was sold to a museum, so we are very happy about it.
Leopold, what is going on with this fabulous, eye-catching installation here?
Well, this is an installation, one piece, composed of 71 canvases that are made on acrylic on canvas. And well, this is part of the work of Mariela Scafati. She's a painter, and she's too strong social activist in Buenos Aires. So he works on topics like queer topics, sexuality, gender, and identity. So what she's trying, the name of the project is Handcuff Secrets, you know, in reference to this magician and famous escapist called Houdini. Because Mariela says that her relationship with paintings are quite similar about the work of Houdini. Because every people knew that Houdini has a trick on the handcuffs and many things going around their shows. And still, people get, you know, illusioned and get passionate by watching him escape. So Mariela thinks that using ropes and knots hanging the paintings, she can, as Houdini, make the painting escape from their normality, from their normativity.
Beautiful.
And make more freedom for them to identify not just like a painting, but maybe as a sculptor, and why not as a body itself.
We can see Manuel Merida. He's a kinetic artist, and it's amazing. It's mesmerizing, his work. You can see how it's done with pigments and sand, and there is a rotating motor that makes the circle move and the sand comes down, but it's super mesmerizing, this work. Jesus Soto, he's a Venezuelan artist, famous for his kinetic work.
Here he's really adding plexi, which I think is amazing, and he's got a kind of architectural come down and look at the curved planes. And he's using these curved pieces of plexi in an ingenious way and making it a completely new architecture. He just wants to keep finding new ways to change the illusion of space. We're at the Satellite Art Fair in Miami on the Upper South Beach, and I'm here with Alex Pack.
Satellite Art Show is taking place in an abandoned hotel, and there are 40 rooms here, and each artist or gallery has basically been given complete creative control over what they're doing. So you're going to see a lot of really transformative installations. You'll see a few like more thoughtful like kind of exhibitions, like straight up gallery shows, and kind of everything in between. We're here in front of the Haunt, and it's a really amazing AR installation that Jean-Luc and a bunch of other artists and designers made. She's just going to tell us a little bit about it.
The Haunt is basically a haunted Miami nightclub where all the ghosts of Miami go and party. In the beginning, we had a drag queen, we had like a drug lord, and we were asking our Miami residents, like, is this the right direction? Is this even authentic enough? So they came to us, they were like, hey, look up Julia Tuttle, look up Matt Klein, look up David Fairchild, and that actually make the experience so much better because now it feels just a bit more authentic.
Invite us into what's happening in your mind in this work.
Well, this is an investigation that has been happening for a while in my work. It's.
I'm going to keep pushing you.
Yeah, yeah. What you see here, they're smaller works, but they work as individual pieces as well as like a whole installation. But the investigation is really about perception. That's my interest in perception.
Nice.
Yeah, and like I pay a lot of attention to light and color, but not just for what the color say that it represents, but for its luminosity.
This particular piece is a very important piece by Gordon Matta-Clark that was in response to Earth Day in 1970, and it was executed the first time, I believe, was 71.
This piece, Garbage Wall, was first made by Gordon Matta-Clark in 1971, but we at the estate have done about 28 iterations of this piece all over the world. And what's very important about it is that we work with the local community and collect local garbage in order to construct it. So here, like Omar mentioned, all of this garbage is pulled out of the water. And you can see, for example, we have an illegal lobster trap here, and lots of debris, lots of plastics that end up in the water. So the students from FIU actually went out in canoes and went into the mangroves and pulled out ropes and netting and plastics from what is essentially a nature preserve where, there's a lot of wildlife and a very delicate ecosystem.
All right, so we're here in front of AWOL's room, and AWOL is a gallery from LA, and they've invited the artist Jim Ovalman to make this sort of transformative paper cathedral. So the sort of stained glass you see behind here is all made out of paper. He also has some like wearables here, and Jim's going to tell us a little bit about the work.
This installation, as you can see through these holes cut, is meant to be perceived in layers. So there's this back wall. If you could maybe go all the way through, maybe through one of these like cutouts. It's like a keyhole into another dimension where these two-dimensional works. And this is older work of this these melted wax candle slightly disintegrating into abstraction imagery. Different images all kind of clustered together. It formed this emotional warmth that I think was the genesis of creating this space.
That's Jorinde Vogt. That's actually a quite German name, yeah. And we are seeing here a quite recent work by her. It's out of a new series called The Hills. And actually it's a development of her formal language of describing like emotions and feelings via like kind of drawings, and actually creating a mind map with suggestive situations. And so this mind map of course then refers here to the hills and mountains, which is also kind of landscape mapping. And so the actual hills are related to situation she experiences, and so every hill is actually one situation, and she doesn't name the actual situation, but she just draws them and paints them and then marks them with those red lines, and here you see the emotions and effects.
Yeah, so I use individually programmable LED technology to create colorful animations that are deeply rooted in color theory, and they're inspired by ocular migraines that cause distortions in my vision.
Oh, wow.
I use computer-controlled machinery to cut the materials, and I do all the programming, I design circuit boards, and that's what it takes to make these things a reality.
So they come from migraines?
Yeah, that's the original inspiration.
And are you thinking about Joseph? Are you thinking about Joseph Albers and punning on all that?
Yeah, Joseph Albers, the early Bauhaus color theorists, are a big influence in my work. James Turrell is a big influence. All of the light art space movement from Southern California. Also inspired by Donald Judd, and anything square or round.
Very good. I love your...
So there's a very different way that our brain processes straight lines versus rounded lines. It's like a different part of our brain. And so when your brain is trying to process very sharp, round curves, it doesn't quite know where to put it in space. And so the layers tend to change position in your mind, even though the sculpture is static. Your mind doesn't quite know how to deal with it.
But at the same time, it's very relaxing. Very relaxing.
They're very meditative, and that's how I took the pain and the difficulty of migraine and transformed it into something that is beautiful and relaxing and almost therapeutic.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Greg.
You're welcome.
We're looking forward to see more of your work.
Thanks for stopping by.
This is the second year that we've collaborated with Untitled and the Untitled radio program, and we're super excited to be here back on South Beach doing this. So this is the structure in the space is a collaboration between myself and architect Ted Lott of Lot 3 Metz Architecture. We're all based in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And then I also asked some friends of ours, not design, Chris Fox over here in the background, to come and do live letterpress printing. And what they're doing is they're printing the content, the conversations that are happening on the radio live. So they're printing live, and then that sign goes up just before the program starts. So there's this dynamic energy that's happening. So while the interviews are happening on the structure, they're printing that sign. So this is where the radio program happens. So the broadcast platform is Winwood Radio, and they've been collaborating with Untitled Radio for the last, I think this is the third iteration or fourth iteration of that programming. And so this is where all the interviews happen.
I like this fair a lot. And I think Omar Lopez-Chahoud has done a fantastic job. And we did want to have a peek here at the David Ryan. David Ryan is a California artist, and he just hits it out of the park. He's not from California. Nevada. All right, close enough. All right. And so he's always chopping up the the shapes, and in my mind, I see the new work every now and again in my email box, and they're phenomenal. Do you want to say something?
Yes, you see, you see the recent works. They were exhibited in the gallery a few days ago, and he's a digital artist. He called these paintings 2.5D paintings because it's between two-dimensional and three dimensions. He begins with the mouse, and then he enlarges the picture, and then he makes every panel, and it's made by a robot, cut by a robot, laser, water, and so on. So he uses the new technology, but he's really in the tradition of painting, and it's a new way to be a painter now.
Absolutely, yes, and it's always surprising and fresh, and you're just looking forward to the
next
one.
When collectors come back, they say, "This work make me happy."
So Maria Lai was born in 1919 in Ulasai, Sardinia, in Italy, and passed away about 4 years ago in 2013 at the age of 94. So Lai is an artist who was most recently seen in Documenta and in the Venice Biennale, and she's known in particular for doing these works with embroidery and stitching, and part of it is it started at an early age with her difficulty learning how to read and write, and then subsequently learning how to express herself more with through the medium of stitching, and also with the oral history that exists within Sardinia of sort of how stories are passed down and women's work. So she is also known for engaging sort of performance pieces, and it was a social practice of she involved the whole town in making she tied together textile of jeans material, and they tied together the entire village, and that led to the mountain. And so it's this whole aspect of bringing together people and making loaves of bread out of ceramic and things like that. But we can take a look at one of her books as well. Just take the box off. Thank you. And so when you look inside, you'll see that she's stitched all of the text together.
Wow. They are so subtle, right? And it speaks about femininity, about subtleness, about texture. The colors are beautiful. Thank you, Sarah.
Of course.
I loved that big museums have these important shows, surveys of women artists, and so my first choice would be the PAM Museum, Perez Museum, retrospective of Dara Friedman. That's the way to go, with a difficult work for mainstream audience, but with a beautiful videos of her career that spans many decades. So, wow. And then at Bass Museum, Mika Rothenberg, a younger generation artist coming to full force, and that was also something to be seen because it's critical, but it's also lush. I loved Mika's work. And then at the fair, so many women artists that are not only token artists, they're relevant and they're of the moment. I booth dedicated to my favorite artist, who is making political art, and that is also amazing to look at, and I'm sure to purchase. So Andrea Bowers, my absolute favorite, the whole booth of...
Hi, I'm Andrea Bowers. The full name of the piece is Climate Change is Real, in parentheses Miami. I've been working with activists and movements around climate justice for many, many years. So, I'm very concerned. This year has been unbelievable with storms and destruction. Just trying to do my small part to be a part of a bigger whole. It's great to be able to partner up with the Leonardo Capital Foundation, the Prez Museum, to do it at this time when so many artists are in town and so many people are in town from all over the world. So I feel so lucky to be doing this here. I hope it has some impact.
But also radical women artists from Latin America that our market does not know, and artists that are historic, like in the main fair section that is art historical, dedicated to such masters like Annie Alberts. And then going to the youngest generation of artists like Angel Haha project by Chin Min Liu, I hope I pronounce it well, who flew with her own airline company here, private jet, to the fair. So that was something to do, to insert herself in the main circuit. So bold. More power to newest generation of millennial artists.
Hello everyone, this is Angel Haha.
So Chinming, the 11 questions from the internet. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Will you invite Hillary Clinton to your flight?
No.
Will you invite President Donald Trump?
Who?
What message is Angel Haha Airline sending to the world?
Happiness.
What's your next step?
Dream even bigger.
What's your message to all women?
Be ambitious.
What's your message to the art world?
Make new rules. Now. Now!
Why are you selling tickets? Art should be accessible to everyone.
Art is not free.
But also artists from Miami that are also in the focus. I saw tremendously powerful performance by Antonia Wright at the Spinello project, and so this is a shout out to her. #control. She is kick-ass artist, and it was the strongest performance that I saw.
Hi, we're at Nada Art Fair, and I am in the booth of Carrie Shush, and we are going to look at the work of Chip Hughes. These are quite intriguing paintings, and they are oil paint on fabric. And if you look at the side over here, the first interesting thing you'll notice is gingham is on the side. And yet, it makes me happy to see a painting viewed as an object. And then what the artist does is cover the gingham with gesso, so he starts over again. But as you can see, he'll start by putting in stripes or checks, and then he'll layer in some transparent oil paint. And so after that is a whole process of going through the stripes and the checks and forming a new kind of newfangled textile. So it's a completely novel approach to painting. So the first thing you'll notice is that normal oil paint will be indulgent in all its strokes, but this artist is quite punctilious and using really more of a pen and ink technique, like a drawing technique with lots of repeated strokes. What's interesting about these paintings is that they're slow to make, and they're a slow burn to take them in, and it really makes you stop time and keep looking and finding new levels of meaning in here. They're evocative. To me, I find a really interesting, if we can move over here, just a material memory. So here in the you can see the different way he's weaving the layers, and to me I feel trimmings and fabric, and so it's sort of a material memory that I don't understand and I don't know where it comes from, but it feels like it's in the culture and he's accessing that. What I like is I feel it's sort of, invoking tablecloth or pears, or it's sort of an ontology of picnic. And sort of he's letting us indulge and experience leisure time and sort of the beingness that we don't have anymore. So I feel like the artist doesn't like to talk about the work, and there's a lot of metaphor in here. And so again, to me it feels like a language of drawing meets language of fabric. It's a new approach, and the rhythm of the patterns is fascinating. And what I like in here is, again, it keeps drawing you in sort of a meditative place, even though it's done in a punctilious way. So in here you can see, as if when you're sitting on the grass in the afternoon, actually taking a break or siesta, you might have these little vistas of sensation in your mind. So here I get a West African textile feel, and I love the sizzling warm colors, and then this kind of braiding on the outside that we see and we feel in fabric, and you don't really think about it, but here he is invoking it, and I don't believe he's copying fabric. He's just found this new rhythmic language that is compelling and can keep us looking at these for a long time.
Man, that was the bump.